Hello and welcome back, friends. Another episode of Coffee with Carl. And here we are in the thick of it. Summer's here, which is, to me, the worst time when it comes to dressing well, right? I love summer. I think that that's probably something that most people feel. Ever since we were kids, right? You get the summer off. It's so much fun. You have freedom. You have time to do things that you wanted to do. But then sometimes as an adult, those things start to go away, right? Eventually you get a job. That job doesn't have summer vacation unless you're a teacher. And summers simply don't mean as much anymore. And that was the way it was for me for a long time. And I noticed that typically the construction industry would ramp up during the summer. So things would just get way, way more just busier, right? I mean, you would take advantage of the longer hours. And I can't tell you how many years went by in my 20s where I was working through my apprenticeship where I didn't do a thing that I wanted to do all summer because we were doing overtime. And a lot of times when you're working 10-hour days, and then we would do 10-hour days and then like a 4-hour thing on Saturday, and we were banging out work like crazy. Your day on Sunday is shot. And matter of fact, Saturday usually is too. I was just like wiped out. And it took several years away from me. I mean that, like, I missed out on things that I wanted to do. I missed out on, picnics at the lake. I missed out on friends' birthday parties. I missed out on concerts. I missed out on just general hangs and going out to dinner or lunch with people. And one year, I want to say that I was maybe in my late 20s, I started going, yeah, I gave up all that time for all this overtime money, but I can't really tell you where that money went, right? It'd be different if you were sitting there with a stack of $200,000 in one hand, and they said, if you give up your summer, you can have this. And even then, I'm not sure that I would do that, right? Because a lot of the people that I wanted to hang out with at the time, if you're younger, this is maybe something that's foreign to you, but I'm 43, and I've seen groups of friends come and go. They say about every 7 years you kind of turn over your friend group, and that makes sense because you're at a different point in your life, right? So, you're single and you're hanging out with people, and maybe you're going to clubs or bars or whatever it is. Then maybe you find that person, and now you're coupled up, and so you hang out with other couples, right? Because nobody wants to be the third wheel. Then maybe marriage, then maybe children, and you tend to hang out with people who are in the same stage of life as you are. And I always had people who I hung out with who were in different stages. Most of the time they were older, and I had a lot of very good mentors who were, in their 50s or whatever, who were almost like a father figure to me. And they would hang out, but they had the perspective of they had been there, right? So they knew what you were going through. And that's a lot different than hanging out with a 21-year-old who just wants to go out and hang out with their friends, which is totally fine at that age, right? And asking them to come with you when you're watching your 2-year-old or something. I don't know. It's just, maybe that's not a great example, but you know what I mean. So I missed out on a good chunk of time that I really should have been spending with that group of people. And I'm not saying that, work isn't important. It is. But I gave up a lot of my life for work. I'll give you one more example. When we did the casino in Monticello, New York, it was 18 months of living up there and then coming back on the weekends. My daughter was just born, and I really wanted to get into this company. They're a great company, and I wanted to start working for them and really, kind of like make a name for myself, right? Do a great job and get established. And I went up there. We'd go up on Monday. We would work. And it's Monticello. If you've never been to Monticello, New York, there's not much around. So more or less what we had to do was work. We'd get there, 7 in the morning. And a lot of times we wouldn't leave until 7 or 7:30 at night because there was nothing to do. I would leave. I would go back to our condo. I would use the gym, work out, come back upstairs, and usually in bed by 8:30, 9 o'clock. And that was every day. And I missed out on 18 months of my daughter's, early years because I was working and then coming back on the weekends. And, you come back for the weekends and you can really be present because, it's different when you're working nights. That kind of screws up your whole schedule. But inevitably you got to go back on Monday. And I've missed a lot of firsts. You know what I mean? I don't think I missed her. I don't think I missed her first word or her first steps. I believe that I was there for those. If you ever had children, those kind of like they kind of morph. Like, when's the first step? Is it when they take a sequence of steps? Is it the first step where they fall down? I don't know, but I do remember a lot of those things. All that to say that I gave up a lot of my life for work, and in retrospect, I shouldn't have. And I should have listened to those old timers who always say, nobody's ever been on their deathbed and said, I wish I had worked more. Nobody has ever said that. And these days, especially ever since I spent that time in the ICU and they really didn't know whether I was going to make it or not, my perspective has shifted to whatever my family needs comes first. And if that means I have to be there for their first day driving them to school, we did this thing, it was called like Cuddle Up and Read, my son's kindergarten class, where you just like, you go in, they pick a book, you sort of pick a corner or an area of the classroom, and they'll read that book to you. And I'm like, I'm not missing that. And I don't miss those things anymore. And if my employer has a problem with it, well, that's a separate conversation. But so far, they haven't. They've been really good with it. So, I'm very fortunate to be with a company that does value family and understands those types of things. But that's not always the case. And, for a long time when I worked with a lot of those other contractors, it was simply hammer down. We got to get this done. And it doesn't matter what it takes from you. We got to get it. We got to make the job a success. And ultimately, that never made me any more money, really. It made the contractor more money, but not me. And I think that so many times you hear a lesson, but you have to walk and find your way through that lesson to truly understand it. I had heard for so long, don't give up your life for money. Don't give up time for whatever it is. And I did. And but hopefully, though, I learned that lesson when it's not too late. My children are still young, and I know now that that's what I'm going to do. And so anyway, I hope that you found kind of the same sort of balance in your life, or at least are trying to balance those things out. I feel like there's a real renewed interest in work-life balance and understanding that life is not about work. I think that once upon a time, maybe there were family farms back in the 1800s, and you worked harder because ultimately it did benefit your family, right? You either produced food or whatever, or were able to sell things which directly benefited you. So a strong work ethic and working from, dawn till dusk was valued. That mentality got pushed on to the 30s, and especially with the Great Depression here in the U.S., I think, again, if you were a good worker, well, there was probably a job for you. There really wasn't any room for people who didn't want to work as hard as they possibly could. Then in the 50s, that was kind of the same thing, right? That work ethic, which was instilled by the generation prior. And, again, right? So they're pushing. And I think that, every generation is influenced by the previous generation. But now it feels like that swing is starting to prioritize life rather than life as work. And I know that in some other countries, to ask somebody right off the bat what they do for work is considered rude because people don't define themselves by their work. And, there's that saying, if you were to pass away, your job posting would be in the paper before your obituary. And it's true. Now, not all companies are created equal, and some will really treat you well and some won't. But if you take anything away from this episode at all, try to maintain that balance, or try to find that balance if you're not in it right now. It can be very difficult depending on the job that you're doing. It was not easy for me when I was in the field doing a house to be able to say, all right, I'm picking up and I'm leaving for the day. This stage in my career, we're working on much larger projects, which are a little bit more scheduled, and I'm able to do that. But when you're going to leave behind a crew, that's not as easy to do. So I certainly understand that not every job is created equal. But if you could find that balance, please do. Because, again, if I can go back to one more old saying, which tends to ring true, it's that men especially will spend the first years of their lives sacrificing their health for money, right? Stress, time, ignoring, doctor's visits or whatever it is, in order to keep working and making more money. Then in the second half of your life, you spend that money in order to get your time back. And that seems really silly to me. So let's do what we can to try to reverse it, make our employers happy, or work for yourself, even better. Bet on yourself. But keep in mind that the people who really matter are you, your family, the people you care about. All right, is that heavy enough for you? Well, hopefully this is going to lighten it up a little bit because we have some interesting things that did come out this week, although they all seem to be somewhat similar because, again, we're in the summer months. And unfortunately, not a lot of great releases come out in the summer, but I do have some good ones. And, I talked last time about how I'm circling the drain on this terry cloth shirt kind of thing. I found one that I really like. However, it's $300, so I'm not even suggesting you get this, but I want to point it out as another really good-looking shirt. This is from the Real McCoys, which right away, when you hear the Real McCoys, in my opinion, they occupy a position above Ironheart and all those other brands. In my opinion, for what they do, they are the best. There are other brands that you could say are equal, but few surpass them, especially with a lot of their military recreation kind of stuff. I have heard stories from Neil Barrett, who owns Standard and Strange, who knows these guys and has told me stories about how crazy they are about details that you might not even see ever, but they want to make sure that they're accurate. And supposedly the stitching on their leather jackets are just spectacular. I've never owned one. They simply don't fit me. But I would love to one day maybe have something from the Real McCoys. Anyway, this is the MC24015 striped cotton Pile Beach shirt in yellow. It has a great retro look to it. It actually looks a little bit more like a jacket than a shirt. I mean, it's short-sleeved and all that, but it also has these big old like patch pockets in the bottom. So in a way, it's almost like a short-sleeve shirt, a towel, and like a what do you call those? The sweaters, the cardigan in a way, right? It almost looks like it's kind of like a short sleeve towel cardigan. It looks dynamite though, and I'm really starting to enjoy that retro look. I was an 80s baby, so this 80s kind of like aesthetic really speaks to me and reminds me of my childhood, and I like it a lot. So this is really cool. I dig it, but I don't dig that price. Now, that being said, if I was going to buy one shirt, one terry cloth shirt, and that was going to be it, maybe this would be the one. But like the one I mentioned last week, which I think was like $65, that's a lot more palatable for people. I don't think I've ever, if I have spent over $300 on a shirt, it's only been once or twice. And I think that was actually with the Ironheart Ultra Heavy Flannel and possibly with that Samurai flannel that I bought a while back for the flannel review. But that's a lot of money. All right, these are here because I think they look really interesting. I don't really like shorts all that much. I do have some because, let's be fair, sometimes you have to wear shorts. And that means that I have to wear, I'm wearing either flip-flops or possibly sneakers, but I only have one pair of each of those. I prefer longer pants, jeans, and boots. That's what I feel comfortable in. But these look pretty good. This is OGL Apparel, the Originale Ripstop P44 shorts in green, $125. These look so cool, a lot like old military fatigues or something. Let's see if there's some sort of a let's see. Oh, there you go. How about that? Inspired by vintage USMC, US Marine Corps P44 pants modified to shorts for the summer wear. I think these look really cool. They have these big old cargo pockets, which this was a big thing in the 90s, if you remember. Cargo pockets were all the rage back then. These, though, are higher up on the hip, so they actually operate as like the upper pocket. And I think just because of how different they are, though familiar, they're cool. I like these, and that price, it's not great, but it's not all that bad. All right, we're going to stick with the shorts for a little bit because I have a few for you. This is from Buzz Ricksons. These are the Mitchell pattern camouflage shorts, civilian model. Thank God. BR 52543. $170 will get you these. A lot of money for shorts, but check out that camo pattern. The cool thing about these two is it also has a camo pattern like on the inside, which, no, I don't know why you'd ever want that or need that, but I think that it's neat that they carried the camo motif within. Their button fly, these just have some, they got some juice to them. You know what I mean? They look really cool. They look somewhat fatigued, and I like the fact that they're not like tech shorts or something like that. They struck me, and I was like, those are pretty cool. And I don't know about you, but something about camo patterns, I think looks really, really cool, especially when it's a little bit more subtle. And like this one is, it almost looks just green from afar. And you have those like kind of little splotches of color, but they're not like in your face camo. So I really think these look cool, but that is a lot of money. I would love to know more about their fit, about how they actually are. The guy they have wearing them here, it looks like they're pretty long too. They hit about like the knee. So those are pretty long shorts. But I also really don't care for those like 7-inch shorts, which I don't need to see a dude's thigh. That's not my thing. So, these are probably maybe a little bit better. But what I want to avoid, I would always want to avoid looking like, that Steve Buscemi, hey, fellow kids, thing. And so you're wearing something that is simply too young for you. But I would like to see these and maybe try them on. All right, last one for shorts. These are the most expensive yet. They're from Greasepoint Workwear. They are $219. This is the Easy Short in 7-ounce watercolor camo ripstop. I think the big thing here is that camo pattern. So cool. And I can see what they mean by like the watercolor kind of thing, because the camo pattern sort of fades away. And if I remember correctly, these are made of some dead stock material, which is really cool. These are available in a pant as well. And it looks like there's an internal belt, like a fabric or nylon webbed belt. So these look really good, and Greasepoint Workwear makes some really awesome stuff. The only thing I just noticed here, I'm looking at it, it doesn't look like they have a fly. That would be a problem. Because, as a guy, when you got to go pee, you don't really want to take your pants off necessarily. And if they had put a fly in there, then that might be a little bit better. This is a lot of money. Greasepoint Workwear makes some great stuff. I do have a pair of their pants. They're wonderful, but they're also just very expensive. But if you like that small shop kind of thing and the quality that comes with it, and let's face it, nothing else quite looks like these. And these are a little bit higher, so they hit like just above the knee. Maybe these are right up your alley. I don't know. I mean, I would say out of the ones I just showed you, these are my favorite. And it goes figure, that they're the most expensive. But, man, I don't know. There's something very enticing about these pair of shorts. All right, so I have a Wrangler discount code. It's for 15% off. You can also stack codes. So if you could find one for free shipping, you can get like a pretty good deal on these things. Wrangler gave it to me after they saw the video that I did on the work shirts, and they offered it to my audience. So 15% is nothing to sneeze at. That's pretty damn good. So there are some interesting things over there. I certainly was perusing the website. I want to show you one thing that I found, because I was like, there's a lot of stuff over there that's very cowboy based. And I think that's, of course, their aesthetic, right? The American West. And that's great. However, I live in New England, so sometimes that stuff can look a little bit like you're cosplaying out here. The pearl snaps and the sawtooth pockets and the whole thing. You got to be careful with how yeehaw you go out here, because you either look like a transplant or you look like someone who's just playing cowboy. And so I have to be really careful. However, I did see this shirt, which looks really good, and I'm hesitant to even tell you about it because I don't want somebody to buy up all the sizes that I want. But this is their men's Wrangler Retro Premium Long Sleeve Western Snap Plaid shirt in colorway America. So they're not pulling any punches here. This is red, white, and blue. However, it's kind of like a drab white, so it's more of a cream color, which I think, and all the colors are somewhat subtle, a little bit mottled. So I really like that because it does give it that retro vibe. And I will say that of the shirts that I was looking at on there, this is the one that caught my eye. There's something about it that isn't too Western. It feels like it could work well on a number of levels, and it's also made in a very nice way. So some of the Wrangler stuff is made to a price, and I think that's totally fine. However, there was somewhere, I don't know, I can't see it on the mobile version, but it is like a higher percentage of cotton. I think there may be a little bit of spandex in there, but it's a higher percentage of cotton, which is good. That's kind of what you want. But I think this looks really nice. It looks like they've done a good job on it. It also makes sense that it's in their premium long sleeve, whatever, but it's $60. There's also a color that's discounted for $29, which is cool, but not as cool. I think this colorway America is really, really nice. There's another one here. Oh, it is 100% cotton. It's right there in my face. How about that? There's another one here that's actually pretty interesting as well, called Peach Fade, which looks really nice. Again, it's a very kind of Western look, but I think it's enough so that you can pull it off almost anywhere. And for 15% off, you can get a nice little discount on that too. So Carl 15. If I don't put it up on the screen here, it's just capital Carl 15, and that'll get you 15% off. But try to stack codes if you can, and you might be able to get this thing for a song and a dance. All right, do you remember me telling you about Knafs last week? Well, they've jumped on as a sponsor, not of this channel, but of some videos on my main channel. And I really got to tell you that they're as cool as I had hoped they were. They seem like very interesting, cool people. They have actually started a YouTube channel, and the most recent video, they came out with a fixed blade, which looks really nice. It's called the Lulu, and they took it to the Amazon for like a week or something like that, and used it out there in all kinds of different ways, and it looks really, really nice. I love a good fixed blade knife. I have a couple. My SE4, which I really like. I also have another one actually by Beretta, believe it or not, and it's just rubber handled, but it's kind of like a bushcraft type of knife. But I always like, and then of course, let's not forget, I have the Big Idea design. I think it's called the Lookout. That is the best EDC fixed blade I've ever carried. It carries just like a folder, but it's a fixed blade. It's not too big, it's not too small. It's really hit the sweet spot in a lot of ways. The Lulu looks like it's a little bit more of a survival type of knife. It's a bigger one. It's got a nice big handle, nice palm swell on it. So it looks like the knife that you could use for basically anything. And it's also I think it's their first knife that's made in America. Even like all the packaging, they said down to the sticker on the box, everything about it is American made, which is really cool. So again, they're doing a lot of really cool stuff. The one thing that I want to get for here is this really interesting poster knife that they have. Knife poster. It's not a poster knife. Could you imagine that? No. They decided to take everything they knew about knives and put it on a poster, and it looks really, really cool, and you could actually frame it and stuff. I think that would make a nice addition to up here, so I think I'm going to buy that. It's not even that expensive. It's like $19 or something, so I think I might pick that up. But either way, the Lulu looks really good. It's also a Magna cut. You can get it with micarta scales, but of course, those scales, I think they give you the CAD file or whatever it is, so you can CNC your own or make them or whatever. I love that about them. They're like, yeah, go fix your own stuff. So anyway, all that to say, Knafs seems like a brand that I can certainly get behind. Otherwise, I would have never accepted them as a sponsor, but I've been loving the Lander too. It's been really cool, and it makes it so much better when a company is run by people who just seem down to earth and cool. And those are the people who I like to work with. So the Lulu looks really good, and I would like one of these. All right, my weird pick is something that is going to be hard for me to pronounce, but I'm going to do my best. All right, so this is from this is the Mafate 3-2 Nicole McLaughlin white neon yellow sneakers. They are crazy, and now these might not be crazy to you if you know what they are. I certainly don't, and I've never seen anybody wear anything like these. Now, when you take the upper gator section off of them, they don't look as crazy. They do look a little nuts, but maybe not as wild as some of the other stuff here. The sole on these wraps way up around the foot, and yeah, they're insane. Now they're $183, so they're a lot of the weird picks that I have are also very expensive for some reason, but these aren't that crazy. But they're insane. These things, it says here, okay, they teamed up with the Boulder-based designer to reimagine the Mafate 3-2, adding a full coverage 4-in-1 gator system atop our cushy bottom unit. I also have a cushy bottom unit. This street-ready version is equipped with 5 utility pockets, co-branded labels, a cinched entry, and a Velcro heel spike. Well, all right. I've never thought of having a utility pocket on my shoes, but there you go. So anyway, these are something they're just crazy. And I guess, in a way, this kind of exemplifies what I don't like about sneakers and the sneaker world. They're so futuristic and crazy looking that sometimes I just go what are you wearing? It looks like they're from the future. You look like a space alien. What are you wearing? You know what I mean? And you don't have to wear Chuck Taylors for everything, okay? But sometimes it almost looks like they're just constantly competing for the most wild, crazy looking thing that you could possibly put on your feet. And I had a hard time just finding gray or black sneakers. I wear sneakers when I take the dog for a walk sometimes, in the gym, and occasionally if I'm wearing shorts or something like that. But that's it. I really don't care for sneakers all that much. And I had a hard time finding ones that weren't like bright neon yellow or some like look at me color. All I really want is something that's just subtle, gets out of the way, and looks good. That's it. So anyway, yeah, if you want these, first of all, you're probably on the wrong channel. I'm sorry. But second of all, good luck, and let me know how they are. Hope that you get a lot of use out of those utility pockets. That's all I have for you, my friends, this week. But thank you so much for watching. I am headed to Detroit to do some stuff on the Detroit jacket for an upcoming video. So that's where I'll be next week. Maybe Coffee with Carl will come to you from Detroit next week. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But either way, we're going to go a little bit more into that trip and what I'm doing there in the extended Patreon edition of this video. So patrons, hang on one second. For the rest of you, thank you so much for watching. Really, from the bottom of my heart, I love talking to you guys. I hope you're doing well. And I apologize if I haven't responded to your comment. It's been a very busy week, and I will do my best to respond to everybody as soon as I can. But I just need you to know that I see them, and I love the interaction, and I really, really thank you and cherish our quasi-virtual friendship thing that we got going on here. Really means a lot to me. So have a great week. Talk to you next week.